And on tonight's Alabama adventure, we take a little trip. We're going to travel to the other side of Alabama. And I'm not talking about on the Mississippi line or on the Georgia or Tennessee or Florida line. I'm talking about the other side of Alabama, the spirit world, the realms of the ghost. What I want to tell you about tonight is a house here in my hometown that's one of the most haunted houses that I can think of. But first of all, as you probably noticed, we change up the set every once in a while. Things will be a little different. And this picture over here on the wall is one that I painted several years ago. And I want to tell you a little something about that painting before I tell you about the haunted house. Now, several years ago, I was in the carpenter business and I also had a sign shop. And I did a lot of artwork. And back in those days, I did a lot of oil paintings. Did a lot of drawings and that type of stuff that kind of went along with the sign business. And this is a picture that I believe is haunted or has some kind of power or meaning about it. Let me tell you what happened with this particular picture right here. I painted this one Sunday afternoon, and not long after I got through painting it, me and my son were going to make a trip to Moundville, Alabama, over there where all the Indian mounds are. We always took our time, but anyway, going over that way, we, as usual, I have to stop and go to the bathroom somewhere. So we pulled down a little dirt road, and where we stopped, whenever I got out, he and I both recognized the scenery. It was the exact same thing as I had painted in a picture, and we actually made a picture or two of it, but I haven't been able to find those pictures. That was the first thing about this particular painting. We found the place that I had never seen, never been there, and painted, and then we ran up on it. As I said, I had a sign shop, and I sold paintings and that type of stuff back then. And I had my paintings hanging in a little room, and I had some in a box that when people come in wanting to look at them, they could go through the box or they could see what we had on the wall. And I sold this painting one time. Well, a few months later, somebody else came in and was going through a box of paintings that I had. And I don't know how the painting came back home, but they pulled this same painting out of a box and I sold it again. The painting had mysteriously returned back home some which way. In those days also, I used to go to auctions, house auctions, estate auctions, that type of stuff. And I went to an auction one Saturday afternoon, and back then they would just put all kind of items like in a big cardboard box, and you would bid on that box and get all type of stuff. So that's what I did at this particular auction. I had bought some other stuff, but then they had the boxes of all type of items come up, and I bid on a box, and I was a high bidder, and I won this box of items. And we just set it on the back end of the truck and came on home, and I didn't go through it for several days. But anyway, whenever I went through the box that I had bought at an auction, which was probably 40 or 50 miles from here, I found this same painting that I had painted several years ago in the very bottom of the box. So for whatever the reason, the painting keeps coming back home. I sold it twice and it's come back home twice, but the painting's no longer for sale. Although since it did come home the second time, I have had other people want to buy the painting. But the painting now has its place in my house on the wall where it'll be until I die. Since the painting came home twice, it has some reason to be here. And as I said a little bit earlier, tonight we're going to talk about the other side of Alabama. We're going to tell some ghost stories. Well, one particular story about a house that's just right down the street from where I live. We're going to give Bigfoot the night off. He sort of needs a break right now, so we're going to give him this night off. And we're going to talk about ghosts. I went to my ghost files, and I have pulled out the folder on this particular house. And while we're talking about it, I'm going to run some photos that I made of the house. Some of the photos are from daytime. You can see the house better. Some of the photos are going to be like at twilight, almost dark, when there's been a little bit of activity here in the last few weeks around twilight over there. So I will tell you about that in just a moment. But okay, now what I want to do before we get started is to give you a little bit of background on the old house. The house was built in the late 1940s or 1950s. It's a concrete block house. It had at that time a solid concrete floor in it. The people that lived there were elderly people. They had retired. The man, after he retired, he was a good lawnmower mechanic, and he repaired people's lawnmowers in town, or sharpened blades and did things like that. And his garage that you see in the picture had several lawnmowers in it that he had for sale or he was working on for somebody. And that's where his shop was, and that's where you could find him sitting in the shop out there most of the time, working on someone's lawnmower. And back in the late 70s was when I met him. He was probably around 70 years old. As I've said before, in those days we used to ride horses a lot and rode horses in town and to town. And sometimes when I was going to town, I would either on the way there or on the way back, I'd ride up in his yard and of course let my horse eat grass, and would talk to him a little bit. And he was just a very nice older man. And I don't believe that it's either him or his wife that is actually doing the haunting of this house. But let's get on to the first encounter that I was told of that this house was haunted. Okay, now the first time that I came in contact with this house being haunted was one night. I had already gone to bed and my telephone rang, and that was back before I had a cell phone. So I got up and answered the phone, and it was a neighbor of mine called me and wanted me to come over to her house, that some people had come over to her house telling her that they had been ran out of their house by a ghost, and that they were leaving. And so when they told her this, she told them she wanted to give me a call, because I was real into paranormal stuff and that type of stuff, and that was what they did. It was probably around midnight. Anyway, I got my clothes on and I went over to this lady's house, and the people that had been renting the house were in there, and you could tell that they were very scared and upset. But anyway, it seemed like it made them feel better whenever they told me what all had happened. What had happened that night, the man had got ready for bed, and he had gone on to bed, and his wife was going to take a shower, and then she was coming to bed. So anyway, he had drifted off to sleep and didn't know anything like this was going on. But in just a little while after his wife got through with her shower, she came out of the bathroom, and when she walked into the bedroom, this black figure was leaning over her husband. The head of the black demon, or whatever you want to call it, was put down close to his face. And when she saw this, she screamed. And her husband said that he had drifted off to sleep, and then something felt like it was just taking his breath, like his breath was just leaving his body. And he was trying to yell for her to come to help him. He didn't know what he was having, a heart attack or something. And but he said he was just paralyzed. He couldn't talk, he couldn't say a word. But when his wife came into the bedroom and she saw this thing, that's what she thought was going on just the first instant, was this thing was sucking the breath out of him. She said it looked like there was some type of a mist between his mouth and where the mouth would be on this ghost. And it looked like it was actually sucking the breath out of his body. And when she screamed, she said this thing raised up and just went back into the closet very quickly. And her husband said that while this thing was over him and he began losing his breath, that he woke up, and when he looked into this thing's face, he said it was solid black, but he said when he looked at it that he could see two red eyes. This was the first time that I was told anything about this house possibly being haunted. Anyway, whenever they told me their story of what all had happened that night, we all decided after a little while to leave. It was probably 2:30 or 3 o'clock on in the morning by then, but they had already called one of them's parents. I don't remember if it was her parents or his parents, and they were going to their house for the rest of the night. And I believe that was the last night that this couple spent in that house. Okay, now the second encounter or second report I had from this house was very similar to the first one, but it was about a year later. The house had stayed vacant, nobody had rented it, and several months later a couple moved into it. But now this couple had a baby when they came there, or they either had one about time they moved in. I don't remember which. But anyway, there was a small baby with this couple. While they had been living there, they had seen out of the corner of their eye, like you usually do when you see a spirit or a ghost, they had seen this black figure several times out of the corner of their eye moving in different parts of the house. And then one night, this lady went in to check on the baby before she went to bed, and she said when she walked into the baby's room that this black figure was standing over the baby bed, just looking at the baby. It wasn't down over the baby or trying to touch it or get it or anything. It was just standing next to the baby bed looking down at it. These people had went to a friend of theirs' house whenever what I'm fixing to tell you about happened. Was not the same lady as the first one. They had some other friends here in town, and they had went to their house, and they were going to spend the night there, I believe. Whenever they got down there and they got to talk about it, they decided to give me a call because I'm the guy that everybody calls when you see a ghost or a Bigfoot or a UFO. What had happened was very similar to the first encounter. The husband had already gone to bed, and the lady was going to watch the rest of some movie that was on. And she said when the movie went off, she went to the bedroom and she opened the door where her husband was already in bed. And when she did, this black figure, or this black ghost, was leaned down over him. The head of this ghost was almost touching his face, and she said she believed it was sucking the breath out of him. Now these two people had not come in contact and had not heard each other's story. But anyway, the reason she said that was very similar to the first. What she said when she saw this thing over it and his mouth was a little open, that there was a little stream of white smoke. She said it was similar to the smoke like on a cigarette when it's just sitting there burning, was coming out of his mouth, and it was going in this ghost mouth. The ghost seemed to be sucking the white smoke or breath out of his body. So as in the first encounter, when she saw this, she screamed. And she said the same thing when she did. This thing raised straight up and shot back into the closet. Undoubtedly, that's where it lived. But she said when it went into the closet, it just went through the door, and her husband then began to wake up. And she ran to the closet thinking that whatever this was in there. It was somebody or whatever. And she opened the door real quick, and she said all that was in the closet was the clothes and the type of stuff that was supposed to be in there. The closet had a light in it, and she flipped the light on real quick, but she didn't see anything. They didn't go back in the house again. As a matter of fact, I don't think they went back in the house even during daylight. The next weekend, they also moved out. Okay, now after this couple moved out, it was several months again before anybody else moved into the house, and it was another couple this time, and they also had a small baby. What happened on this third encounter that I was told about, the husband had already left to go to work that morning, and his wife was getting ready to go to work. She carried the baby to one of them's parents every day for them to babysit it while they both worked. And usually her sister came by and picked her up, or they at least rode together. They both worked at the same place. And her sister would come by every morning. She would finish getting ready while her sister could sort of watch the baby, and then they would leave for work. This last morning, I guess, that they were there, the wife was in the bathroom getting her makeup and everything on, and she looked down into the sink, and when she looked back up, this figure of a man began to appear in the bathroom mirror. She was kind of startled to begin with, but she said she just tried to stand there for a little bit and watch to see what was going on, and it took a few seconds, but the man became very plain in the mirror. In her mind, she thought it was a ghost or a spirit, and then she also thought that it could be somebody. When it got where she could see it real plain, she immediately turned around, and there was nothing there, and that scared her to death. And she went to screaming, and she ran up the hall to the living room where her sister was playing with the baby, and she told her they had to get out of the house, that there was a ghost in the bathroom. And so they both ran outside, and they ran to the car, and she took the baby and put it in the car seat, in the back seat, and buckled it in. And her sister, she had told her to get in, that they were getting out of there as quick as they could. Her sister got in the car on the passenger side in the front seat, and the wife ran around to the driver's side and jumped in the car, and she cranked up the car. And she said just as she started to put it in gear, she glanced up into the mirror to make sure the baby was okay, because from all the screaming and running and stuff, the baby had went to crying. And as she glanced up, this same man, Ghost, was sitting in the back seat with his arm over the car seat, sitting there looking at the baby. And she immediately put it back in park and turned the car off and got the baby out. Her and her sister then, I believe, got in her sister's car, or got in one of the other cars, and went to their parents' house, where they later got in touch with me that afternoon. Okay, now the next encounter may or may not have something to do with the house being haunted. But when I get through telling it, I'll tell you why I think that it may. It was sometime later that some other people rented the house and moved in. But this time it was a woman, and she had some children that moved in with her. And her parents also moved in with her. And while they had lived there, they had seen this black figure, or black figures from time to time, in the house. It had not gotten over the bed, or they didn't say it did with anybody, but they had just noticed the black figure around the house from time to time. And the mother, the older lady, said that it was some type of bad omen, and that they were going to have some bad luck or something, because they kept seeing this black figure in the house. It was in all the rooms. Not all the time, but on several occasions they had seen it throughout the house. And it wasn't long after they lived there till the daughter was in a very bad car accident and killed. And as I said, it may or it may not have anything to do with the house being haunted, but since the ghost was actually seen in the car with this other lady and her sister, then I kind of associated that it could have something to do with it. Okay, now the next encounter happened with a man who had lived there for some time, him and his wife and daughter. His daughter, she would, when she got out of school every afternoon, she would come home, and he would stand on the front porch, and they would sometimes play, and you could hear them laughing and talking. And he would watch her ride her bicycle up and down the sidewalk almost every day when she got in from school. One afternoon, many of the local children were working on a homecoming float in the backyard of this house, and because this little girl was going to be on the float too, and they had brought it there to work on it, to put the float together for the homecoming parade on Thursday or Friday of that week. All of a sudden, well, I'll tell you what I was doing. I had an air conditioner that had went out, and I was replacing a window air conditioner. And I went outside, and there was a few cars over there, and it was the people working on the float. And I came back in, and when I got the air conditioner and in the window, I walked back outside. In the meantime, I had heard a siren, and I walked back outside to check my air conditioner to see if I had it in the window good. And there was a crowd of cars and the police and ambulances over at this house. And what had happened, the man had got shot, or someone had shot him. I don't think it was ever determined exactly what happened, but the bedroom where he died was the same one where everybody had always seen this black figure. It was kind of unsolved, but it was, I guess, put on the back shelf or whatever. Eyewitnesses' accounts of what all happened that afternoon never matched or anything. As a matter of fact, there were 3 accounts of where the bullet wound was. So it just makes you wonder if the ghost had something to do with the man shooting himself, or did somebody shoot him, or what happened that afternoon. But it was very odd, as much as he thought of this little girl, and seemed to with the other children in the community, that if he shot himself, I don't think he would have shot himself with that many children in the backyard. The bullet could have went through the wall and easily hit one of them. but it's just something else associated with the house. Okay, now I want you to look at this photograph closely. In the back bedroom window, you can actually see what looks like a ghost coming out of the window. And if you look close at the front door, just to the left side of the front door, there also appears to be a ghost there. It's not a plain ghost, it's a very light ghost, but with careful examination of the photograph, it very much looks like the man who lived there and died is still standing by the front door watching his daughter ride her bicycle. And this photo was made about a week after he died. Now I want you to look at this photo of some type of figure in the front yard. This was one afternoon. It was kind of a rainy, foggy afternoon, and something just told me to walk by the house and make a few pictures. And this next set of pictures that's coming up is those pictures I made. You'll see a lot of orbs in the front yard, and it looks like the orbs are going upward. And also in this one photograph that I made of the front yard, you can see what appears to be the shape of a person in the front yard, as you can see like shoulders and a head off of this ghostly white figure. Also in one of these photographs you will notice a mysterious ghostly looking fog, and it's only in one photograph. It was for a long time that this house stayed vacant. Over that period of time it was put up for sale. Now the house has stayed vacant for a pretty long time, but recently over the last year someone purchased the house, and they did some major remodeling. Anyway, right now there's not any electricity or power on in the house, but over the last few weeks I have noticed, I guess maybe it's because it's getting close to Halloween of 2015 and the veil between the worlds is getting thinner, getting ready for Halloween night. But anyway, sometimes late in the afternoon, that's why I made some of the pictures at twilight. Sometimes around twilight in the afternoon you can see light come on in two of the rooms. One of them is the bedroom where the mysterious black figure always appeared and where the man got killed. And over a little while, if you just stand out there and watch it, over a period of 30 minutes to an hour, the lights will dim and go completely out. And if you would like to investigate it, you would have to get in touch with the people that actually own the house now. I'm not worried about what it is. But anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this Alabama adventure. As I said at the beginning, we gave Bigfoot a break tonight, and if you like what we're doing down here, and if you like these Alabama adventures, if you like Bigfoot and ghosts and UFOs and that type of stuff, and stories about them from this area and around Alabama, I would ask you to subscribe to the channel and to give us a like. And as I always do, I'd like to say hello to my granddaughter Madison. I'd like to tell you that the Alabama Bigfoot Society investigates all type of paranormal activity, from Bigfoot on down to UFOs and ghosts. And if you think you have a past life, we'll sit there and talk about it. Just anything paranormal we're interested in. And with all that being said, once again, thank you for tuning in tonight. Hope you enjoyed it. And we'll be looking for you next time on the next Alabama Adventure.